finna get loose. One thing that a lot of runners have in common that's not necessarily a good thing is that many of us, and I definitely include me in this list, are very tight. Our muscles are tight. We lack great flexibility. Now, there are some runners out there that are very flexible, but as a general rule, if you want to kind of stereotype runners, when it comes to being flexible, we're not. So today I want to talk about some of the best stretches that we as runners can do, that we should do, and why that stretching is so important. To be 100% clear, there are no definitive studies out there that show any kind of link, any type of correlation between how flexible a person is and their likelihood of becoming injured in any event, in any sport. Yet, there are still plenty of reasons that stretching is important. By regularly stretching and improving the elasticity of your muscles and your tendons, you improve the overall range of motion for each and every joint in your body. And in most cases, having an improved range of motion is a good thing. It also simply helps to just feel better. I know after a good stretch, whether it's a yoga session, whether it's stretching after a run or anything else, or even just waking up in the morning, just stretching and stretching, it just helps you to feel good. And as far as overuse injuries go, a lot of times, and not always, and there's no definitive link, but a lot of overuse injuries like tendonitis and bursitis and just some of those irritation, inflammation type of injuries, one of the things that you can do to really minimize those symptoms and help to feel better is to lengthen the tissue. So there's definitely lots of reasons that you should be stretching, even if you're like me and don't do it as often as would be recommended. So where should we as runners focus our time on stretching? Well, the easiest answer is just the entire lower extremities. So starting from the top down, you've got your hips and your hip flexors, your quads and your hamstrings, which are the front and back of your thigh, and certainly the calves as well. For the hips, if you're laying on your back, you can cross one leg over the other to make kind of a figure four type of shape with your legs and pull back on the non-crossed leg. You'll definitely feel this deep down in your hips. And another good hip and kind of lower back stretch is sitting up. Same type of thing. Cross the one leg over and then twist your entire upper body around the other side. So if you're crossing your right leg, you twist and reach your left elbow around to the outside of your right knee. For your hip flexors, the easiest way to really focus that front spot of your hip is to be in a kneeling position, kind of try to rotate your hips down while simultaneously leaning back with your upper chest and torso. When it comes to stretching your quads, nothing beats the standard standing up, pulling your foot back, trying to get your heel to touch your butt. And as you can see for me, my flexibility is definitely lacking because there is definitely a gap between my heel and my glutes. When it comes to stretching your hamstrings, there's a couple of options. One of my favorites is seated and having one leg bent in and really leaning forward with both hands towards the toe of the other foot. And then when it comes to your calves, there's a couple of options, but my favorite far and away is to just use a step. And it can be any step in your house, and it doesn't need to be big. It can be just a little lip for the door jamb, but just stand on it, keeping your legs straight, letting gravity pull your heel down towards the ground. And then also do the same thing, but with your knee bent a little bit. So that's a great quick run through of stretching, but one other word when it comes to stretching. If you really have a goal of improving your range of motion and increasing your level of flexibility, you can't just stretch once in a while. Even just once a day probably isn't enough. To see the biggest gains and the most rapid gains, you need to stretch regularly, and that can be 2, 3, 4 times a day. Now, this whole routine will probably only take 5 minutes, 6 minutes at the most. So it's something that can definitely be done several times a day if improving your flexibility is important to you. Say what now? Finna get loose. Finna get loose.